And welcome back to another one of these Scarfy Spurs Talk podcasts. Today, I'm joined by a fantastic panel. Firstly, Billy, how you doing?
Hey man, I'm very good. Very good, thank you. How you doing?
No, I'm very good. Thank you again. Thank you for giving me your time this evening. Looking forward to it. It should be a good one.
Yeah, it should
So
be a good
thank
one,
you
man.
very much. Yeah, it definitely should be. And Haz, pretty much a regular now. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. You? So I had a nice day off, so I was
Oh, lovely.
pretty chilled.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Love that. Love to hear that. Connor, it's been a long time. How you doing?
Yeah, it is. I think it was 2022 when I come on here last time.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not too bad, yeah.
Yeah, very good, thank you. Wow, I remember it like it was yesterday. 2 years. Wow, that's gone so
It was
so
just
quickly.
after we
But
played
thank you.
Palace.
Oh wow. Oh yes. Yeah, I remember that. We won, didn't we? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That's good. Thank you very much for coming on. And Justin, again, like I said, to Haz regular, along with Billy as well now. How you doing, Justin?
Yeah, not too bad. Going to be looking forward to this. I said definitely one of the ones I've been interested more rather than some of the awkward ones when the season hasn't got as we'd hoped.
Absolutely, we've got quite a few of these transfer window shows planned, but today should be a good one as we preview it. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It's free to do so, and it helps the channel's content grow and improve. Really, really quick to do so as well. If you're listening on a podcast platform afterwards, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. We'll crack straight into it. And Billy, I'll start with you. How important is this summer transfer window for Spurs? Is it like any normal transfer window in terms of importance, or is that extra bit special in terms of we really do need to back Ange?
I think it's really important, as all of our transfer windows seem to be, because we're kind of at that point now where we traditionally have not gone on to the next level. So, we've made plenty of good teams of the last 20 years or so, but we have never been able to go that next step where we're finally ready to win something consistently. And I think the way to do that is you have to spend when you're nearly a good team like we are at the moment. So yeah, I think it's a really, really important one. I think every transfer window is important for us, and the way that the game is now in the Premier League, if you're not continually improving your squad and spending money, you're not going to win anything. So yeah, I think it's a really important one as always.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We talk about every window, don't we? But how important is this summer window? We've got to try and find a way to close the gap, to the best teams in England. However far we may be away from that, is up to you. But how important is it?
Well, I think it's very important in the sense of more for Ange than anyone else. And the reason I say this is because obviously we've seen the style that Ange played last season, and some will argue. Many will argue that in order to make it work, he needs his players, quote unquote. So in that regards, it is an important window because it will see what kind of players will get in and whether they'll fit his system. So in that sense, yes. Obviously, Billy alluded to the fact every window is important. So
yeah, of course, every window is important. So there we go.
I think especially this one because it's Ange's. Obviously, he's quote unquote he's assessed the squad already, so he should know what he wants.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's had the whole season to do that. There's no reason for him not to know what he wants. Connor, are you under an impression, there is a little bit more important than other summer transfer windows, or is it just another transfer window where manager needs to be back to we need to bring in what we need ultimately?
Every transfer window is important, but this one's especially it's a transitional transfer window. Because Ange has obviously had his first season, tested all the squad. It's time to get rid of the players he doesn't want and time to get in the players that he does need.
Yeah, absolutely. Nicely summarised. I do completely agree with that. And Justin, we all know that transfer windows are important. Does this one feel extra special? Because personally for me, Justin, it does in terms of, a lot of players were brought in for Ange, but now for me it's about adding squad depth and improving in key positions that really flourish in an Ange system, like protection to a defence. Very important the way we play, in particular number 9, to make sure we score a lot of goals. So does this summer feel really, really important if we're going to get somewhere special with this team?
I don't think it feels so much special for Ange because we've seen before people who've come to this club, not been backed, gone on and done something else somewhere else. So it's never been, I don't think it's ultimately for him. I think it's more about the owners because they've got themselves a guy who wants to actually be here. He actually wants to change the culture. He isn't here. He doesn't feel like he's doing us a favour. He believes in what he's trying to do and where he wants to take the club. So I do feel it's more on the ownership of the club now because You know, we've seen where we are with PSR, FFP, and things like that. We've seen where other clubs are. If you can't take advantage of this window more than any other, when we're going to come on to it, but we've seen so many clubs that are having to really watch themselves with PSR and FFP to balance their books, then I just don't see the point. I really don't. You know, this window should be prime Tottenham. It really, really should. It should be seeing everybody else struggling, going in, milking for them for what they're worth, getting these players in, and really actually doing something that, you know, we haven't seen them, I think, ever do, which is 100% fully back a manager. So I think it's more on the owners than it is on Ange, because I think he has shown how important he wants it to be. It's just whether they will back him for it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's it again. Well summarised. Connor, for you, what positions do we need to strengthen? Like I said to you, you're in control of the transfers to Tottenham Hotspur. Where would you improve or add depth to?
Definitely a striker. I think someone that can play, because I want to keep Richarlison, so I want someone who can play and rotate with Richarlison. I also want another centre back, so a backup centre back, and also a full back who can play both sides. Obviously, we've been linked with Kyle Walker-Peters. I think that wouldn't be too bad for squad depth, especially.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm frustrated that we let him go in the first place. I do have a little bit on Kyle Walker-Peters later, so we will come back to that. Billy, where do we need to strengthen? Where's the most important part?
I think that there's quite a number of holes in the squad that we need to fill. Striker definitely being the main
Go
one.
for it.
I think, and then I also think like we need number 6 as well. I think we're pretty set in midfield for 8 and 10 roles, but number 6 I think is really needed, especially if Højbjerg goes, which he probably will. And then I think another key area is we need backup for Porro and Udogie, because we don't have any at the moment, really. I think Royal's going to go, and I think obviously Sessegnon's going to go, which leaves us with 2 fullbacks really that we're comfortable playing in, and we can't do that across a season with, you know, being in Europe as well. So I'd like some depth there as well for sure. But I think my main priority has got to be we need some more firepower up front.
Yeah, absolutely. The way we play as well. I think you're spot on. Very, very important. Haz, this is the moment you wait for every single transfer window. Where do we need to strengthen?
Left wing, right wing, up front, and a number 6.
Okay, so not too bad.
That doesn't
for
include
you,
Werner, by the way.
Okay.
So
Any depth in fullback positions needed?
See, I'm of the belief that now we need to start buying players in the sense of, like, say we have 250 million to spend.
Yeah.
Buy 4 top class players with that money rather than buying 7 or 8. So I would do 4 big ones now. Promote some youngsters to cover the fullback positions, like your Dorringtons, your Phillips. Put them in, because we can always shift Van de Ven to left back. And then wait another window to January or the summer, and then go fill in the fullback slots, and then add another, maybe, like, we'll have to add like a midfielder or something. This is I'm talking about the summer after this. But if it was me, I'd go big on left wing, right wing, striker, and number 6.
Okay, not much then. No, fair enough. Thank you very much. Justin, what positions do we need to strengthen for you? What really catches your eye?
Just so I can be clear, how many do you actually want?
Later we'll get on to if we could only sign 3 players.
Right,
For now,
okay, that's fine. That's fine. All right. Striker 100%. You know, we saw that Son is not an out-and-out goal scorer, and I think we also saw with Richarlison that injuries have hampered him, and I'd be concerned that he's, you know, in effect we're going to be asking him to potentially play 55 games. So that I just don't see that happening. But I think it needs to be a real sort of out-and-out goal scorer, you know, a big name, possibly 2, you know, just based on people that are available. I think possibly 1 or 2 strikers, a versatile winger, but I think a world-class, top quality versatile striker, somebody who, you know, could work well with Maddison, you know, you kind of shifting positions and things like that. And then I think a number 6, you know, it's so disappointing that what we've seen and what we were expecting just hasn't materialized. And again, it needs to be a big, strong leader, not just on the pitch, off the pitch, almost someone that you could potentially say could become captain, in the future. So those are the main ones. The rest, I think, are just to add squad depth. So in terms of fullbacks, I know they're talking about another centre back, but we got 3 already. Why can't we just bring one through from the youth? I don't really understand why we can't do that. We see other clubs do it. We seem to shy away from doing it. I don't really understand that. But yeah, that if it was to me, it would be 1 or 2 possible fullbacks, a number 6, or at least 1 winger and at least 1 striker, if not 2 strikers and 2 wingers.
Okay, no, I think that's interesting. Haz, I'll come back to you. If we could only sign 3 players this window, only 3, so you mentioned a few more than 3, who would it be? You said about the money there and the stadium that it brings in. Let's say we had 250 million. Realistically, what would your 3 players be?
Can I include your wild card in Isak or not? Because I saw Harry's tweet about Isak saying we could get him. I love to get Isak, but I don't think that's attainable, to be honest with you.
Remember, Newcastle finish outside of Europe, and to spend big, they will have to sell, and he will generate a lot of money from them. They won't want to, but they might not be given the option to.
So if you're pushing me for 3 and not 4, because I named 4 positions, I'd forego the number 6 for a season, and I'd just buy 3 attackers. So I'd go get Eze, Kvaratskhelia, Napoli guy, and I'd go sign Isak, I guess.
Okay, fair enough. Billy, who would be your 3 signings for you?
I'd be kind of similar, but I would not forego the number 6 role. So I go Eze would be my number 1 overall sign of the summer. I think if we sign him, it will massively improve us and can play anywhere in the front 3, which would be really, really good. I'd also get a striker. The guy from Sporting Lisbon, Gyökeres, I think would be really good. And I would definitely go for a number 6. I'm not massively clued up on the market of number 6, but I like the look of the Edison guy who's at Atalanta, but I think that's unlikely now that they just won the Europa League, so I'd probably go for Onana at Everton.
All right, I'll take Onana at Everton. I think that's a very good shout. Connor, for you, 3 players, who would they be?
So tough. I'm the same as Billy. I do quite like Eze. I do think that should be our marquee signing. Like you said, very versatile. And then on top of him, I'd get Solanke. Well, I know that might be a bit unrealistic because that's quite a lot of money. And for the 3rd, I'm really not sure about the 3rd position. 3rd player, sorry.
Sorry.
I said centre back. But yeah, it's very hard.
Okay. Yeah, it is hard. Yeah, it's hard when you narrow it down. I think that it is quite tough because you want more than 3, and you try and think 3 are the most important. So I understand you.
But apparently Paratici recommended Edison to Spurs, supportedly, but I don't know how true that is.
I didn't hear that, but there we go. Yeah, I don't think Edison will come. We'll see Atalanta winning Europa League there. So we'll have to see what happens. But Justin, for you, who'd your 3 be?
I'm going to be quite realistic in terms of the ones that I think are possible. I do think, if we're being sort of quite clever about what we could get, for me, I think we're going to be looking realistically, because I get what Connor was saying with Solanke, but I think, I agree that's going to be far, far too much money. And I feel that with the reports that are coming out with a year left on his deal, I think for me, I would go with Ivan Toney, because I just feel that deal is more realistic in terms of he's got, as I said, a year left. Brentford know they want to sell. They've already put a price on him. I think that's going to be the more realistic option. I do think as well, Eze, if we could get, those 2 for 100 million, I think that would be absolutely amazing. I do agree with what Billy said. Number 6 is an important position, but it does sort of, it's a very sort of difficult one in terms of where we go or who they sort of look out for that. So I'm going to kind of maybe go slightly different to that. And I'm going to turn around and say Morgan Gibbs-White, because I feel if we could have Gibbs-White, because to be fair, that not only do they cover a variety of positions, does Gibbs-White and Eze, but they're homegrown as well. So that helps on that factor, as well as Ivan Toney. And I feel as well they're the most realistic. Nottingham Forest have got to sell. We know that. Palace I think have kind of given the indication that they're happy at 60 million for that. And Brentford have sort of turned around and said, that they're happy with sort of 40 million. So if you could turn around and get, let's say you got all three of those for 140 million pounds, based on, I think it was Haz said, of 250, you've got 110 left, to go and not only, use that, but with players you sell that could help go there. So I feel that those would be the three I go for based on the fact they're most realistic of what we could get.
Okay, thank you very much.
One,
Trying to think of
I know from my
Yeah, go
podcast,
on.
I just want to make a point because like the Eze's, the Gibbs Whites, these players we've been linked with. One risk with them, and I know people might disagree with me, it's fine, is that they're coming from a much smaller club, like a big fish in a small pond. Obviously, they've done well at these levels, like Palace, who have never really been in Europe, or like they're low, they're bottom 10 most of the time, apart from the odd season. And Gibbs White, who's gone, almost went down last year. Is that in these clubs, I've noticed sometimes these players come to these bigger clubs and they just don't step up to like the levels that they were at, say, the older clubs. I think it's a bit. I still think it's a risk.
No, I think you have a point, Haz. I think you have a point, but what I would say to you is that both Eze in particular, but also Gibbs White, have proven themselves against the big teams when they've played, and they've stepped up to the cage. You look at since Glaston's come in, for example, with Eze, Man United, the prime example in terms of the games won by someone like Eze just takes control, mind out the way, I'll take control of this. And Gibbs White for me is the reason we're talking about Forest next season in the Premier League rather than in the Championship. It's just little players like that have a big difference. But I think it is a good question. We just don't know because we see, as you say, players make the step up and don't always stand out, or sometimes don't even do well. So I think it's a very valid point.
I think it's another example of that, really.
Yeah, I think though, to be fair, you look at the other side of it and this is where I think the key part has got to be the attitude, and that's I think the key with what you're saying there is that because we've done it before, we went and spent absolutely massive on Ndombele, who, from what everybody told us and what everybody saw, was going to be one of the best players in the world, and has turned out successfully. He's the worst signing we've ever made, and I would include that, with Gregor Raziak and Andy Booth. So to be fair, the legend is Raziak. So, to me, I think that's the one key part, and I do hope, that with what we're seeing, particularly with Eze and with others, that it doesn't become a club signing. I think we all saw when Jed Spence came and, Conte said, well, the club turned around and everybody just went, no, we know what that means. It's got to be a case of that the players that we go and get are what the manager wants. The manager because that's to me, to be honest, and it's why I kind of am more acceptant of Werner than I would have been, because if it had been a club signing, if the club had gone and got him, yes, I probably wouldn't have been as happy. But because Ange is the one who seemed to want him, I kind of am more accepted. And that, I think, is the key part. If we go and get people in and Ange is sitting there going, oh, well, the club told me he was a good player, well, then it's pointless because they're not going to work in that system. We're going by basically peeing in the wind and hoping for the best. So I think I get what Haz is saying, but if the attitude is right and they are desperate to prove themselves, because don't forget, Maddison came from Leicester, who were relegated, and up until his injury was absolutely sensational.
But then I'm trying to Basuma was the same thing, really, though, you could say, because he started off really well and then he's just tailed off completely.
It is. And this is the joys of the transfer window, though. That's the difficulty with it, because we've seen so many players that have been at lower levels, then gone up there and have got their big moves and sort of not performed, and then we've seen others who have done it and have been absolutely excellent. So it's that's why I think, for me, if Ange wants the players, that's who we've got to get. The problem has always been when it's been a club signing. The moment it's a club signing, it don't work. As I say, Jed Spence and Ndombele, Lo Celso, we can go through the list of players the club have bought, and they've bought badly.
Okay, no, fair enough. Before we move on, my three have just been thinking. Firstly, João Palhinha, I think, adds a little bit of experience, which is much needed to this team. And for me, I was going to say Gallagher, but I don't really look at Gallagher and go as someone who can protect the defence. So if we don't somehow sign the likes of Eze, well, Gibbs White, if we discussed, then Gallagher would be my turn to, if you like, but not really as number 6. So João Palhinha would be 1. Eze would be 2nd. I think we should prioritise him. Solanke would probably be the third. I know I've made a big kind of stunt, if you like, this week for Isak, but realistically, it's not impossible because the situation that Newcastle find themselves in, and I think the money that we do have, but are we going to pay 120 plus million, if not more?
Also, would he want to
can't
come,
see it.
Harry? That's another thing. Would he want to come to
Well,
Spurs?
a lot of people say that, and I don't really understand that because Newcastle aren't in Europe. Spurs are. Okay, we're quite close in terms of where we compete, and I think we'll be quite close next year. And Newcastle are on the right path, but I would say so are we. We've got a lovely new stadium. We in the Europa League, I think that we have a good chance of winning that if we treat that seriously. So if I'm Isak, I know where I'm going, but maybe that's my bias.
Because Harry, Arsenal,
instead of Isak.
Because Arsenal were linked with Isak, obviously, before the window even opened, or the past few months. And then I read a story saying that they're off him now because they don't want to deal with the fact he's got like 4 years left on his contract or something, 4 or 5 years. So they don't want to deal with like negotiations of it, which is fair enough.
I think also as well, the feeling probably is it's going to be more Guimaraes that's going to go because
he's probably going to go Arsenal.
Whereas Isak they've got more chance to be flexible with him. So I reckon it'll be Guimaraes, and then that will sort them out. Sadly,
he's probably going to Arsenal, Guimaraes anyway. But they're going to get Sesko now, Arsenal. So that Isak's off the table. But I think it was another one they were looking at. I can't remember what striker was now. It's come up from my head. What I'm saying is there is issues this window about finding a good striker. Like it's going to be quite difficult, I think.
But what we've all got to remember is that a lot of strikers are looking. A lot of teams are looking for a striker, should I say? I think that Newcastle move on Callum Wilson looking for a striker. I think Man United want someone to support Højlund. I think Chelsea definitely need a striker. Tottenham need a striker. I think Liverpool do. Arsenal do. There's so many teams in that top 6-7 that do need strikers, and there's obviously not many out there. If there is, you've got to pay big prices. But I want to move on to a loan signing that we made recently, and that is Timo Werner on a year loan. So, Billy, I want to kick it off with you. What are your thoughts on this? For you, are you happy in terms of ad squad depth? Because there's a lot of uproar about it. I'm not going to give my opinion on it, but what do you think?
I don't really have particularly strong feelings either way. I think it's not someone that I'm going to get excited about signing, but it's also not someone I'm going to get angry about signing. I think as long as he's a replacement for like Brian Hill, then it's fine. I think that's what he will be as well. I think we'll sign another winger on top, which is fine. And I think when we're in Europa League, a player like Timo Werner is he's going to be good enough to play a lot of games in the Europa League and hopefully contribute some goals and assists. So I'm fine with it as long as it's a depth signing. I'll be very disappointed if it's the first team signing, which I don't think it is. So yeah, I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not really. It makes sense to me. Like it's a loan signing again, relatively cheap outlay. I know people are talking about his wages, but over a year it comes to about 6 or 7 million, which is nothing for us really. So yeah, I'm not really too fussed about it either way.
No, nor am I. I completely agree with that. Connor, I'm very interested to get your thoughts on this. People don't know Timo Werner signed a year loan extension at Spurs. How do you feel about it, Connor?
Okay, so at first I wasn't pleased, but since I've kind of had a think about it, tried to be logical about it, and yeah, I agree with Billy. It is a case of if it's a first team signing, it's not going to be great, but I think he offers enough. We saw that his output wasn't the worst. He's not actually a bad footballer, if you take away the clinical ability from his game. And yeah, as long as we sign someone else, then I'll happily have him.
Okay, no, fair enough. I couldn't agree more. We know your kind of thoughts or what your thoughts are going to be on that, but can you explain your thinking behind Timo Werner and why you don't see the positives? Because for me, I look at Werner and go, add squad depth. I honestly struggle to see a problem with it. But prove me wrong.
This is a typical Spurs signing. I'm sorry. As everyone says, he's for depth, right? But this is basically us, to me, accepting the fact that we're not going to get better than Son this summer. And bear in mind, again, as me and Harry had loads of discussions about this, I believe Song is on the decline, and I think it's been shown recently. He's 32. If Werner was 3 years younger or 4 years younger, I'd be like, fine, I'll have him for another year, because I think he's 25. There is a possibility of him getting better, but he's 29 in March, if you guys don't know. So as I've alluded to with Son, his output's going to go down. Bear in mind, Werner doesn't have many output anyway, so I feel like we're just wasting a spot in the squad of non-homegrown. Also, bear in mind, Werner I'm sorry to say, he basically failed us last season. Him and Johnson have the highest missed chances in the league. I think Johnson's first and he's second. So bear in mind, this is an attack-heavy system, okay, where we need to outscore, as JJ would attest to this, and says we outscore the opponents, right? We score 4, they score 3. Werner can hit a barn door. So there's 0 goals on that side if Werner plays. And a lot of people are saying he's a depth signing, he's not going to play. Well, apart from the fact we're going to waste 6 to 10 million or maybe more on his wages, which could go to another player, a bet player. And bear in mind, we are in Europe, so he's going to play a lot more than you think, especially if Son gets injured. To me, this is alarm bells. And to me, if this is how the window is going to go, we might as well just tear up this project and just start again. Anyway.
I don't agree with it. Fair enough. For me, you totally sport your point by mentioning Brennan Johnson there, who has 10 assists last season, more than any other Arsenal player. But that's enough of that. Justin, come to you. Talk to me about Timo Werner.
I'm a bit like Billy with this one. I'm very much on the fence. You know, it's not one that's has wowed me. I get where Haz is coming from, because it does smack of what we've done in the past. You know, we have done these type of signings, and I mean, the worrying thing is, does he fall into the same category as Ryan Nelson, Louis Saha, people like that, cheap alternatives from there. So I do get that. I think obviously I get also about the fact of if particularly if Brian Hill goes and if Solomon goes, then, because to me, I feel he's better than them, but I certainly don't feel that he's better than Son. And I get also what Haz is saying about Son. We have started to see albeit slow, we have seen a decline of his. But I think my answer will be different come the end of the window. Because if we've signed nobody else, no other wingers, I will be angry about it. I will be in the same camp as Haz, because to me, that then constitutes a lazy signing. That is what that is. That is turning around and saying, "Oh, we couldn't get you everybody else, but we did get you this." And it's like, no, that's you. So I think that is why I'm a little bit on the fence with it. I wasn't wowed by it, but in my head, I'm sort of sitting there to myself thinking, well, do you know what? I'll see what the club does. If we let's say we got my 3 of Tony, Morgan, Gibbs White, and Eze, I'd be like, yep, fine, because we've got players, we've got so many options ahead of him that to me, it's then sort of feels like it is squad depth rather than from that side. And you kind of help as well where, if, for example, we're playing Colchester United at home, or, we're in the Europa League and we're playing, one of these lower end teams that they've now added in, you'd think then, okay, maybe have him in, because you should, in theory, he should be able to be good enough to see it through. So, as I say, I do totally get where Haz is coming from. If there's nobody else, then I'd be with him.
But Justin,
on it, but
a lot of people telling me that Eze is going to come in and play as a number 10. So
I don't see that. I don't see him playing as a number 10, because I feel that if you look at how I think they would set up, and you look at how England have set up tonight, it does give you an indication that I think he'll be more of, sort of like floating around. I think him and Maddison will move positions and things like that. And to be fair, I think that kind of gives us more creativity, particularly on the wings and in the middle of the park, because one of the things we have seen, particularly with, Kulusevski, everybody knows what he's going to do. He's going to go down the wing, he's going to stop, he's going to check inside, and then he's going to whip the ball in. Okay. Johnson, we know he's just going to run down and we don't know where it's going to go sometimes. Okay, he's got 10 assists, but there have been times where, in theory, he should have done better. So
Like I
I
alluded to,
personally,
they both have the highest missed chances in the league.
and this is the whole point, and this is why I do feel that if we had a starting 4 of, let's say, Tony, Son, Maddison, and Eze, I feel that would probably
That's
be
strong.
our starting front 4.
But then the
to be
backup
honest, I
would
think
be
it would be.
because obviously they're going to sell, they want to sell Richarlison. So
And then this is why, to me, I know they've been looking at him, but I would go for that Guirassy at Stuttgart. It's a ridiculous price, and he's absolutely torn it up in the Bundesliga.
but again, it's off the back of one season though.
But if you're going, but what I would say, Haz, is you're not going to be, Tottenham are not going to go and sign £100 million players. They're just not going to do that. You know, I mean, the players that you probably think we should buy, like I think we should be buying, because I do agree with you on that. We shouldn't be looking at potential of this and potential for that. We should be looking at, you know, Dusan Vlahovic at Juventus, or Chiesa, who's now available at Juventus. You know, players like that, players of the bigger ilk. But we also know, whether we like it or not, this ownership works in a certain way, and it ain't going to change no matter what anybody says. So are we potentially signing that, you know, as you say, on the back of one season here or one season here? Sometimes we are, but if they are able to fit within this system and believes that they can work within it, you know, not being funny, for a guy who's torn it up in, maybe one season, but then you could argue about Florian Wirtz. He's only done it for one season.
I could argue the same with Tony and Solanke as well. I'm just saying, for striker, it's very difficult this one. I'm not saying we should.
It is, and that to me is why I feel that, not being funny, if you could spend £60 million and get Solanke and Guirassy through the door, and in turn you've been able to get, you know, let's say they do get Richarlison out the door, but even if they keep Richarlison, there's still 3 top strikers you've got, and then you could possibly sell Parrott, loan out Scarlett, whatever you want to do. But I think if we're able to look at that sort of way of doing it, that isn't a bad sort of squad depth, and it's the one thing that, whether we like it or not, we've all screamed out for, that once the main man's out, whoever it's been, which is usually Kane, we're then down to what, Janssen, or you know, down to other sort of knockoffs that we brought through. So to me, I sort of feel if we could go into the season with, let's say, Tony, Guirassy, and Richarlison, that's not really bad, to be honest.
We've been in with Marcus Edwards a lot, though. I don't know.
Get on to Marcus Edwards. So hold your thinking about Marcus Edwards. So we'll get onto it. Don't worry. But Connor, before we do move on, for you, this site, you know, loan signing Timo Werner, are you under the same impression of me that it really depends what happens in the rest of the window, whether this is good or bad?
It is down to whatever happens in the rest of the window, because like, you know, it's like you made the good point with Brennan Johnson when you was talking about Brennan Johnson and how his numbers are good, and I think in the short amount of time he had, because he spent some of it injured, Werner, he did produce numbers, and if he's doing it in the Europa League against weaker sides, you know, that's fine by me. If it means we get to rest another left winger that we hopefully sign for the Premier League games.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I completely agree with that. But we will move on, because today we've been linked with Jude Bellingham's brother, Joe Bellingham. So, Billy, I'll start with you. What do you make of this? Because some people go, it's lazy scouting from Spurs because of the connection, obviously close connection with Jude Bellingham. But it doesn't really work like that, does it? They would have seen something in Joe Bellingham, traits to Jude that they really like. It wouldn't have just been like, we can't get Jude Bellingham, let's settle for Joe. So for you, can you see him in a Spurs shirt firstly? And what do you make of the news that we're hearing today?
No, I can't see it personally, just because I think we've just got too many young players in that position already. We've got Alfie Devine, we've got Bergvall coming in, we've got Jamie Donnelly, who can all play that sort of similar position. And I think we've got a really exciting crop of young players coming through. I just don't think it's someone that we need at all. I think it's just a name for a name's sake, because of who his brother is. I think he's an exciting young player for sure, but it's not an area where we really need, I don't think. I think, our under-21s just won the league, and they won the League Cup as well. So I'd rather just promote some of those than spend 20 million on a player that's probably not going to feature much for us, and then be sold again. So, it's not really one that interests me, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. Connor, you did a lot of shaking of your head when I was reading at that point. Explain to me why.
Uh, because I've heard things, I've seen things saying he's not great. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say I watch the Championship every single week. I don't. I'd have to get. Maybe it's unfair of me to shake my head. I'd probably have to get a better opinion from some of my friends who watch a little bit more EFL football than I do. But yeah, I don't know. From an outside perspective, it doesn't look great, but it's something I'd probably have to look into a little bit more to actually give a fair opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Haz, talk to me about Joe Bellingham. What do you make of the links? You know, is there something to be positive about with you? I don't think for 1 minute that you will be, but talk to me.
Well, I'm in two minds about this. So, I mean, if he
Okay.
brings his brother along, then cool. But obviously he's not going to.
Don't think it quite works like that.
No. On a serious note, he's 18, and as Billy alluded to, we already have loads of young players. So I don't want to waste another 20 million on another young player. I want all the money to go into the first team. So for me, it's like a no in that respect. But the club might be seeing this and thinking, because he's 18, Jude Bellingham's like, was he 20? Is he 21, 22, 23 now? I can't remember what age he was. But they might be thinking he might develop like his brother, which is probably why they're looking at him. That's the only thing I can really
Leave
think
you
of.
sign him.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe they're thinking get him in early before he blooms, if that makes sense. So in that respect, I haven't seen him play, so I'm just basing it off his name. If he's anything like his brother, we should bring him in. If he's not, forget it.
I do quite try and watch a little bit of Championship because I do really enjoy it. I find it really competitive, and I think it's getting better year on year. And bits I've seen of Joe Bellingham, if I'm totally honest with you, he hasn't stood out to me in a game. But at the same time, he hasn't really done anything wrong. He's one of the better players at Sunderland. But Jack Clark, with his time at Sunderland, for me, he stood out to me a bit more. And there were Sunderland players that I thought, they're quite good. So I don't think Joe Bellingham overall in the Championship really stood out to me. But I haven't watched Sunderland in a lot of games. I just know they played Newcastle. Obviously, that's that big rivalry there. And he, for me, didn't really step up to the plate. But it doesn't really mean anything based on a few games
He's only 18,
that I've seen.
Isn't he? So,
yeah, he's very, very young. And I think that obviously it will be a risk in a way, but you link with Jude Bellingham, it seems clever in a way, but as you said, a deal to get both of them in will be fantastic. But I think we're absolutely dreaming with that. Justin, talk to me about Joe Bellingham. You watched him? If so, what do you think of him?
I've seen bits of him. To be honest, I think he's one thing you've got to be looking at here is he's not Sunderland's best player. Sunderland's best player is Jack Clark. Now, if anybody knows Jack Clark's previous club, will then indicate where we're going with this. Okay, so to me, I sort of sit there and I look at that, and I'm totally with everybody else. I think, if we're talking about a guy, because of the name or because he's a young player, then that's ridiculous. And to me, I think it sends a very poor message to the youth team, who have just won. The Premier League title, in terms of the Premier League 2, to turn around and say, well done for doing that, but we don't trust you. So we're going to go get a guy from the Championship who's never played in the Premier League either. So to me, I would rather, if we're going down that route, I would rather be going to get Donnelly in, Tyrese Hall, people like that. I'd rather them save that money and go big somewhere else. I just think it sends a really, really poor message. And when you look at how other clubs do so well with their youth players, not just as in bringing them through, but actually selling them. Man City got £45 million for Cole Palmer, and he only played a couple of times. We'd luckily get £4.5 for some of our youth players, in years gone by. So you do sit there and you think, I must admit, I saw that, and I just think it the same way as I do about Marcus Edwards. Why are we going down those sort of routes? We're meant to be, a big club. We're meant to be going forward. We need to be going for big names and being serious. And if we want to bring through younger players, well, they just won the title. So pick it from there.
Okay, thank you. And you led me on perfectly, Justin, like you knew, and that is Marcus Edwards. So I'm going to go around the panel in no particular order, and I just want a yes or no answer till we move on to players that we would sell and a bit about the youth academy. So yeah, just literally just a yes or no, Marcus Edwards. So Billy, yes or no?
No.
No. Justin?
No.
Haz?
No.
Connor?
No.
Oof. Okay, interesting. I thought it'd be quite even. For me, I'm gonna lean towards no, but that's because again there's a like all round football ability, yes, but it just screams another mistake of letting players go, and that's one thing I will say that's frustrated me in the last few years. The players that we've let go that we shouldn't have, and we will get onto youth academy, but there's players I look at now, Jamie Donnelly, Mikey Moore, Will Lancashire, who are doing really, really well, and I don't know why they're not getting an opportunity. But I think that we eventually they'll be sold, and they'll be sold to close for nothing, as Justin's kind of touched on. I think that is the reality, because they won't get minutes. They'll look to move on, and we just take whatever's there. So that's frustrating. But thank you for that. Now moving on to who we would sell. So Haz, I'm going to come to you first. Talk to me about the players that you get rid of. Firstly,
Do you have the squad?
But by the way, can I just say? By the way, Haz, can I just say? I was planning to go to bed at some point, so
Oh,
okay.
too long with
I
this.
tell you what, Haz, I'll make it a bit easier for you.
Yeah.
Like, talk to me about some of the players: Basuma, Kulusevski, Richarlison. Some names that have struggled or
yeah.
All right, yeah,
maybe
move.
that's
What do you
probably
reckon?
easier. Yeah, that's probably easier. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, Hill, Solomon out. So looking at attackers. Personally, if we're bringing Eze as like a 10 option, I'd sell Kulusevski.
You'd sell Kulusevski. What for? Give me a price tag.
I've heard he's staying. So yeah. Ironically, I would keep Skip. I would rather keep the homegrown people and the club trained people, because it means we won't go and sign Edwards. So keep Skip. And unfortunately, we might have to keep Parrott as like on the list, because if we sell more club trained players, this is why they're looking at Kyle Walker-Peters as like a replacement for a club trained player. If you read As the Gold's tweets and other information, that's why they're looking at Kyle Walker-Peters and Edwards going to fill these slots. So I'd keep these players so we don't have to go out and sign players like Edwards and Kyle Walker-Peters. I'd keep Davies, but I'd sell Emerson, because Davies can at least play centre back and he can play on the left. So I keep him for 1 more year. In midfield, Højbjerg's going to go regardless of what I think. So we're going to need to buy someone there. Trying to think who else is on the list. I'll give Johnson 1 more season. 1 more year, that's it. Richarlison, I'd keep Richarlison. I'd keep Son. And yeah, that's about it. I don't know how many players I've got to sell, but
Sure.
yeah.
No, it's fine. Just one of the main ones. So, thank you very much. Billy, players that, when I say sell players, who comes to you in mind? For me, it'd be like the Celso and Ndombele, that kind of player.
Yeah, definitely those two. I think Højbjerg. I would not sell Richarlison personally. I thought he was, our best football last season was when he was playing number 9. I don't think we're going to buy 2 strikers, so I'd rather just buy another striker on top of Richarlison. I think I would get rid of Sessegnon. I would get rid of, sadly, as much as it pains me to say, I'd get rid of Emerson Royal, because I don't think he's well suited to our side of football. And there's a bit of value in him, unlike some of our other players. And I think Spence will go. I think Roden will go. So there's a lot of bodies you can get rid of. It's just finding a buyer for them. Gill, Solomon. You look at the sort of 8 to 10 players that we can get rid of, but I just don't want it to be these loans again, because no money ends up coming in for us. But I think my priority, we have to get a lot of those big wage players off the books, Ndombele, Gio, but I just can't see anyone buying Ndombele. I think he's going to be looking at another loan. So, but yeah, there's a lot of players we can shift, I think.
Yeah, I do think that there's definitely quite a few, whatever way you look at it. Connor, for you, players that you really want to shift this summer, maybe bring in money or been here too long, go for
it. Probably like your generic ones. You've got Brian Hill, Manuel Solomon, Jed Spence, all of these sort of players. But in terms of more like first team players, I don't think I'd really get rid of anyone who's in and around the first team, other than maybe Davis, so he can free up room and wages for another backup who's probably a bit more Ange Postecoglou. So someone who's a bit quicker, a bit younger, Yeah, so for me, and as well, we see it every season. It's we're going to try and sell these players, or we're going to sell these players, but it's never really like that. It's always, you can get a loan for a couple of them. Look at players like Ndombele. Um, just nobody wants to pay wages like these. Somebody, because we're Spurs and we give out good wages, so it's hard to get rid of a lot of these players.
Yeah, absolutely. And Justin, I'll come to you on players that you shift ideally this summer. But Connor makes a really, really valid point that, there's a lot of players who want to sell. I went through the other day and named 15, 16. But are we going to get rid of that many? I don't think so. So for you, who'd be your priority to get rid of?
I think, to be honest, the priority ones, for me, I think the priority ones have to be the ones that are going to bring in money, because, there's no point. We know what was going to happen with the likes. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if with Ndombele, they just pay him up. He's got a year left on his contract. Just pay him up, I think, is where their head will go with that one. But for me, I think the priority are the players to go that can bring money in. So, Joe Roden, Tanganga, Reguilon could probably bring some money in because he didn't do too badly at Brentford. I think the only problem was they just couldn't keep him because of his wages. Jed Spence didn't do too badly in Italy. So there might be an opportunity to, get rid of him. I think Højbjerg as well. I think that could bring in some money. Emerson Royal will bring in some money. Brian Hill will bring in some money. So I think if we can get those, make them the main ones to get out the door, so that then we can build up this transfer pot. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the transfer pot for Tottenham is probably 100 million, I think, without selling anybody. I don't think it's going to be massive. So I think if we can get those players out the door and let's say generate another 80, 90 million pounds off the back of that, then, I think then it could really help with that and getting these players out the door. So those would be the main ones, because as I said, I just don't, we know we need to get rid of a lot more than that, but I just don't see how the club are going to do it, unless they be brutal like they were with Sessegnon, where they just turned around and said, yeah, we're not going to turn around and keep you. We're not going to extend your contract. Bye. So I hope that there is going to be a bit more brutality when it comes to that.
Would you keep Lo Celso though, Justin? Because I'm an inclination I want to keep him already.
Okay.
Promise he's too injury prone.
That's my problem. That is my issue. I just feel it's such a shame. We've seen glimpses, and if it had been a case of, let's say we had a year or 2 years and it's been down and he'd been injuries, I'd say okay, fair enough. But I don't see how the club can turn around and say, well, we're going to get rid of Ryan Sessegnon because you're injured, but we're going to keep Lo Celso. To be honest,
it's a shame.
It is, and that to me is, I totally agree with you. I think both Sessegnon and Lo Celso, there is a brilliant player in both of them, but we can't just have people just sat on the sidelines, and that is it. I mean, not being funny, what was it? I think one game Lo Celso did 15 minutes, couldn't play the next 2 or 3. You're like, well, we can't, we're not a charity. We shouldn't be a charity. And I agree. If he could stay fit, I think then we don't even go and, because this is to me, I think why we're signing or going after Eze, because I think the club has made that decision that Lo Celso has to go. So if you're going to get rid of Lo Celso, I think then you have to go and get somebody like Eze, because then you need some versatility in that creative centre and somebody who you're going to get a lot more than a 15-minute cameo every month.
Okay, no, fair enough. I'm going to name 3 players now. We go on at once again, whether just a yes or not yes or no, but this time a keep or sell answer. It's as simple as that. I'm going to name 3 players, and I'm going to go in a totally random order. Firstly, Richarlison. Connor, keep or sell?
Keep.
Connor goes keep. Billy, what are you thinking?
Keep as well.
Keep as well. Yeah, agree. Haz?
Keep.
And Justin?
I'd only sell him if the Saudis offered crazy money. Otherwise, I'd keep him.
Would there be a price for you that you'd listen to? Because I was thinking the same the other day, and I was struggling to think of a nailed-on price where I'd go, yeah, I'd listen to that. Or yeah, I'd take
that. To be honest, this is why I think it would have to be Saudi money. Because I certainly wouldn't take anything less than what we paid for him. And I think, you're talking about 80, 90 million. He's not worth it. but I think it would have to, and the only team that could pay that is Saudi money. So yeah, that's why for me, I think we should keep him.
Okay, fair enough. Next player is Kulusevski, which is interesting. Obviously, after not a very good season for him, but obviously ends it on a high against Sheffield United. So Justin, kick it off with you. Keep or sell Kulusevski?
Keep, purely because I think, I think then my worry would be do I think he's better than Werner? Yes, I do. And that to me is where it comes into it, so for me, it would have to be keeping.
Have to be keep. Okay, no, fair enough. Kulusevski for you, Connor. Keep or sell?
Keep.
Another
Absolutely.
keep. Haz?
Sell.
Sell. Oh, would you like to explain
I've had
why?
enough. I've had enough. I can't watch him check back on his effort every game.
Okay, no, fair enough. Billy?
Keep for sure. Keep.
Okay, there we go. And the last one, which I think will be an agreed answer, but I think it's reasonable to ask the question. Billy, Basuma, keep or sell?
Keep, without a doubt.
Justin?
I'm going to be controversial here. I'd sell him.
I'm in that kind of.
I just feel that the decline that we saw during the season after that red card at Luton was just shocking. It absolutely was. And is it an attitude issue more than anything else? Obviously we then saw what happened with Marley and things like that. So I kind of just sit there and think, we maybe if we had an opportunity that we could sell him, I think we should.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. There we go. Haz, what do you reckon?
Keep. Because otherwise we're not selling everyone. I won't have anyone left, so I need to keep some players. So it's like, yeah, I can't sell them all in one. I can't sell them all in
That's
one
true.
window.
It's down to you.
In one window.
We'd be down to 12 players without a doubt. So
Yeah.
Fair enough. And Connor, for you, keep or sell?
One more season, keep.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that's a good shout. For me, again, like we mentioned with Saudi money and Richardson, for me, it really does depend on what you're being offered, because Basuma, I don't see it, but really, substantial if that offer comes in, then I would listen. Just because I think in this Ange system, and for a club like Spurs, you need a player that's going to, perform consistently. And of course, you can't play well every game. Not really. We understand that. But for me, Basuma, and it was the same at Brighton. You'd have half a dozen good games, then he'd get injured or he'd dip out of form, and we just can't have that if we want to progress and fight in competition. So for me,
the problem is, Harry, is I would sell him, but the problem is we're going to sell Skip and Højbjerg as well. So.
But you said you wanted to keep Skip.
Yeah, I would have said I would have kept Højbjerg as well, but Højbjerg doesn't want to be here. So I'm going to have to keep Basuma because Højbjerg's going anyway. So it's just, would it be down to like no players left in midfield?
Okay, before we move on to youth, if you all could just sell 3 players, there's not a lot at all, I know, but 3 only this summer. Think about priorities. Who's going to bring the most money in so we can spend more in the window? Haz, if you had to narrow it down to 3?
Emerson and Dombele, because I just want him out. And Brian Hill.
Okay. No, fair enough. Connor?
Højbjerg, Celso and Emerson. I think they generate the most.
I think it'd be the most common answer. I think that's what I've seen most of your fans, their priorities to sell. So thank you. Billy?
Yeah, I'm going to echo what Connor said, just because that's probably the most value we can get. And I'd agree with Connor completely.
Yeah, I really like Højbjerg, but I think that he doesn't suit an Ange system, and he'd bring, obviously not a substantial amount, but he will bring money in, and there's no point keeping a player if he doesn't want to be here. At the same time, I don't blame Højbjerg. You go for me, one of the first players on the team sheet under Mourinho to one of the last on the bench under Ange. You haven't really put a foot wrong in my eyes. So I do get Højbjerg's kind of way of looking at it, if that is the case. Justin, 3 players to move on.
Roden, Royal and Højbjerg. I think the reason that I'm picking Roden is because I think he had a decent season in the Championship, and I think either Leeds will try and get him for like 15, possibly 20. But I know that there are clubs that have come up in terms of into the Premier League that are looking at him as well. So to me, I feel like we could get 15 to 20 million. Royal, obviously, it looks like we're going to get 20 million, and Højbjerg would probably get another 15, 20 million. So potentially we're talking about 50 to 60 million pounds just on those three.
Yeah, so it's quite good. I went through and totaled the players that I wanted to sell, and it never goes like that. But I made it 170, 180 million. But realistically, I think we get 100, 120 if all go well with player sales. Now we will move on to youth. Connor, I'm going to start with you to kick it off. Do the youth for you deserve more minutes next season? I'm talking about the likes of Jamie Donnelly, Mikey Moore, Troy Parrott, Dane Scarlett. For you, when because I look at it, Connor, and go, when will they get their chance? Some like Parrott, their stats are really good. Moore, Donnelly, Lancashire are doing really well. Under 21s, youth academy. When will they get their chance? Because they didn't get it this season when we had an injury crisis. They didn't get it when the game was done against Sheffield United. So when are they going to get it? And would you give them more of an opportunity if you were Ange Postecoglou?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, I'm afraid, Connor.
I was muted.
No worries.
So I'm not one to argue with the manager. He does what he does for a reason. But, as long as we actually perform in, the Carabao Cup, the Europa League, and the FA Cup, then I will start to play them. But this season, I completely understand why we haven't seen them that much, because we're playing in the league and we're fighting for, top four. But I do like what Ange did towards the end of the season. He brought Donnelly along with him. No, sorry, was it Donnelly? Yeah, no, Mikey Moore. That's what I meant to say. Brought Mikey Moore along with him to the games, and I don't know. It's kind of obvious he's not going to play, and he's sitting on the bench, and it's kind of like, right, Mikey, I want you to sit here and I want you to watch this game and study it and see how you can affect it, and then maybe next season we'll see more of him. So I think maybe he was just doing a bit of homework.
Yeah, no, okay, fair enough. For me personally, it does really annoy me. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I look at Fulham, second round of the League Cup, and Ange hasn't been there long, and we're all entitled to mistakes. I don't necessarily hold it against him, but I find it more frustrating than anything. When we play a really average second like B team, your second team, and lose to Fulham, if we're going to go out, or if we're going to do it like that, then for me, I'd rather give youth a chance. I want to see Donnelly, Moore, Parrott, Scarlett in that starting 11, or getting some minutes. You treat it seriously. I've always thought that Fulham game, anything like that, you go first team, really, really strong. You get the game over and done with. No disrespect to Fulham, I think we have enough quality to blow them away come the end, be able to give youth a chance at the end and still progress. And the ultimate reality is, against Fulham, we didn't give youth a chance. We played players that wanted to go, and it didn't really raise their value at all. If anything, it decreased them. And we didn't play the first team, we got knocked out. So for me, I look at that every case scenario, it just went wrong, and I still can't quite get over that. Haz, for you, did you need a chance next season? Also, we talked a lot, haven't we? Me and you have been on so many shows already this year about players you want to bring in, players you want to sell, but youth, do they deserve a chance?
Well, I think we should have used the youth more last season, even because especially with the quote unquote transitional season, everyone kept telling me, but I didn't see many of them till the end, when kind of the season was kind of done. So for me, I like to see them used in a way sort of. So for example, the Carabao Cup, which I want us to take seriously, or the FA Cup, which are the most attainable trophies for us next season, on top of the Europa League, because we aren't going to win the league. So for me, I'd like to see youth being played early in those competitions, but kind of like, instead of making 9 or 10 changes, make 3 or 4 or something like that. Tweak it, just do tweaks, because I think Ange probably is going to need to learn to tweak it rather than doing wholesale changes every time, in order to keep a level of quality in the side. So if he plays Mikey Moore up top with Son, and I don't know, so we get Eze in, something like that, in a cup game, I'll be like, at least he'll have someone decent to play with, and to try and get something out of the game. And say put Donnelly in midfield with, I don't know, Sarr and I don't know, whoever we bring in as a midfielder, Gallagher or whatever it is. So you need to play a mixed side. If that happens, that's fine. But what I don't want to see is that they get shoved into the Carabao Cup game like last season, where we rested 9 players and you put youngsters in with dead wood pretty much, and they'll just get wasted. So
I completely agree. For me, for example, you play the first team and you put Mikey Moore in. You play the first team or you put Scarlett in. But the issue is when we give you for chances 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 changes, and we have managers, we have fans wondering why it's not clicking. Our Scarlett's washed up, I've heard today, or Parrotty's useless, we've been given a chance at the Spurs shirt. But as far as I'm concerned, when Parrot's been given a chance at the Spurs shirt, it's been in a cup competition with a team, Gedson Fernandez, and that kind of caliber of player, Mitchell Vaughan over the years. It's been that kind of team without any disrespect. So you can't. People go, "Oh, you should prove yourself more in that," but you don't really know who you're playing with. You're in the first team who you spent time watching, you understand, and they're at a very high level. And I think you don't make that many changes at once. But Billy, how do you feel with the youth? Did they get enough minutes last season? Because we had no Europe. Has said transitional season. However, we wanted that 5th place. We wanted to get Europa League. And would you give them more of a chance next season for you? If so, when?
Yeah, it's got to be more next season. I think it is difficult in the first season because your main aim has got to be to bed the first team into a new style of play, which we've now done. So now it's time to play them in the competition. I think the Fulham game is real disappointing because that was probably our only real chance because we got really unlucky with the FA Cup draw by drawing Man City so early. If we'd have drawn like a League One team, League Two team in that game, we could have seen some more. And then I think it's quite difficult to be bringing them in and out of Premier League games all the time. So I think we've got a real chance this season with the Europa League, and it should be a good time to bring some of them because they just won the league. We've got some of the best young players in the country. Mikey Moore, Jamie Donnelly, players like that are some of the most special talent that this country has. So we've got to start playing them, otherwise they're just going to want to leave and they're going to go somewhere else, like they're going to go Germany or something, and we'll live to regret it. So I think we've got some really exciting talent in Bergvall, Donnelly, and Moore in particular. And I think we've got to start seeing them this season.
No, fair enough. And to wrap us up before we get to people's questions, Justin, what do you make of the whole youth situation? Obviously, you've heard everyone have their say on it. What do you reckon?
Well, it's one of the biggest areas that we failed for so many years. The amount of players that we've all screamed about that we wanted to be brought in or integrated or things like that. And you just sit there and you think, why on earth are we not just trying to at least integrate them? We've always seemed to use them. I remember hearing the story of Conte just bringing them through as, almost like keeping them as statues, so that the first team could, train with them. I mean, why are we not? Bearing in mind, and it's one of the things that I've found amazing, when you talk about a club that is so desperate to make money from anything or everything, why on earth it hasn't followed like the Chelsea model or the Man City model, where you can loan players out. Not everybody from that youth level is going to go into the first team. So why on earth are we not putting them on show, whether it be getting loans in the Premier League or getting starting points or coming off the bench for us? It's almost like we give these out as sort of token gestures. I mean, we did. Was it last year? No, it was under. I think it was last year. I was under Ryan Mason when we gave Matthew Craig and I think it was George Abbott or somebody else like token, subs appearances for the last 5 minutes. So it doesn't mean anything. Then nobody's going to look at it and go, "Wow, that was amazing 5 minutes." What they're going to look at is the fact that Joe Rodon captained Leeds and was actually gotten pretty much one game away from being back in the Premier League. They're going to look at Troy Parrott, who's got 18 goals, and I can't think how many assists it was, but he scored 2 hat-tricks in 2 weeks. They're going to be looking at that sort of thing. If these players aren't good enough, you want to be able to have them in the shop window where you can turn around and go, do you want these players? Yeah, you're not getting them for 3, 4, 5 million quid. We are going to be like Chelsea. We're going to be like Man City, where we're going to sell these players for 10, 20, 30, 40 million pounds. Because if you think they're good enough, we think they're good enough. That's the market price now. And that is where I've never understood how Tottenham have failed so spectacularly. The only thing they failed worse on that is getting a trophy. That's the only other thing they failed worse on, to be honest.
No, I'd like to kind of laugh, but I think that generally it is the case, I'm afraid. But I do want to move on to people's questions. A lot of them in the chat. I've got a lot here on X. So do get your questions involved in the comments below. For anyone on the panel, first thing I'm going to bring up Peter's question. Would you guys prefer Tony or Solanke? This question I'm going to give to you, Connor. So either Tony or Solanke, if you could choose.
From what I've seen all round as an all-round player, I'd give it to Tony. From if I was to then base it on just like the past season, I'd give it to Solanke. As you know, we've seen Tony must have a lot going on. Hopefully his head's all clear now and he's focused on his football. But you know, since his return, he's not really been all that great for Brentford. So that is actually a lot tougher than it would have been maybe a year ago. But maybe to be realistic, I'd go with Tony in terms of price.
Okay. Fair enough. Justin, I'll give the next question to you from Paul Brown. Big up Paul, who says, question, is it the fault of our coaching staff that once exit immediately look better? You know, likes of Kyle Walker Peters, Kunde, etc. What do you make of that?
I think I don't think it's the fault of the coaching staff. I think it's a set up with regards to the club. You know, the problem has always been that you got to get top four. You know, if you ever since Enoch walked through the door, he was top four, and it still is. You know, it's top four. You know, and we saw when Ange was talking about it, and you could see him getting annoyed that everyone it seems to talk to him about was top four, because that is the culture of the club. When you have a culture that the top four is the be all and end all, forget everything else, you're not going to be bothered about, you know, who does what. You know, do you want to, you know, because you're not going to, you know, you take Antonio Conte, Jose Mourinho, were they really going to spend time developing these players, you know, giving them the belief that they had a pathway in? Or were they thinking, I've been paid a bucket load of cash and the only thing I've got to care about is top four? And that is where the biggest problem really has come, is the fact that, and that's one thing that I agreed with Ange said particularly, and obviously I know the timing wasn't great, but he did say there's certain things he didn't like in terms of the culture inside and outside the club. You know, to me, I think he was I think that was a clever comment, because people all took it as, oh, that is him having a dig because we didn't want to win a game against Manchester City. I don't think it was. I think he used that as an opportunity to say there are people in this club who there is not bigger priorities about getting trophies or things like that. It's coming in, taking away, it's getting top four and going home, rinse and repeat year in, year out. So that to me is why when you look at some of those players, some have been good and some have done nothing, you know. But the problem being is so many of those players will look at the culture at the club, will look at what the priority is and think, well, I'm not really that important because I'm not going to be, am I going to be a guarantee to get them top four? Probably not. You know, to me, I'd be better off going to have a loan somewhere else. You know, you take the likes of, and I think Marcus Edwards can be included that and summed up perfectly. You know, went to Sporting Lisbon. You know, what was it? I think there's a stat, over 100 players have left Tottenham and won silverware. You know, so whether that be recognised striker, recognised players,
even Nkudi went to Turkey and won something.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. You know, but I said, and Marcus Edwards, a young player, went to Sporting Lisbon, went and won trophies there, and now we're talking about bringing him back. You know, this ultimately shows you where he should be the definition of the failure of our youth system.
Also, Madueke at Chelsea, Justin.
Yeah,
Oh, small technical
This
issue
is
for
the
Justin.
failure of the club. You got cut.
Yeah, you got cut. Who knows who by? There we go. Billy, I'll give the next question to you while Justin's sorting out. Chris says, what position would you guys say needs addressing first in terms of incomings, and who would you want to buy? So obviously you have touched on that, Billy, but obviously Chris didn't hear. What do you make of that? He said he also add on to say would love Alexander Isak, but Levy won't pay for him.
I think it's a difficult one because I think there's a few positions which are probably tied, but I'd probably go for, if I had to choose one, I'd change my mind from what I said earlier. I'd probably go for number 6, just because I think if we had to muddle through with Son, Richarlison and Johnson, we could probably do it. I'd hopefully reduce on a striker, but I think we're really lacking a number 6. And I think that's why we leaked a lot of goals last season, because we don't have a number 6 that can, sit in front of the defence and make us a bit more structured in defence that way. So I'd go number 6 if I had to go anything. And for that player, I'd probably want Onana or Edison, like we said earlier.
Okay, thank you very much, Haz. Big up Ash, who says, what do you guys think about Therese Hall? What do you think, Haz?
Okay, who's this one? Sorry, I don't know Tyrese Hall. Who's Tyrese Hall?
So Tyrese Hall is he's a centre mid for under 21s who.
Oh
by
no,
all
I haven't.
accounts-
I'm the wrong person to ask. I haven't seen enough of the under 21s to read
No,
judges.
I
he's,
haven't seen much
he's
of
a,
him.
he's a serious talent. I
Is he?
would not be surprised at all if he was integrated into the first team next year because he looks really, really good. He looks really, really, really good. He can play centre midfield, so he was excellent in the final the other day.
Looks good on the ball.
Yeah, really good on the ball. He's a bit press resistant. He's really good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just so I can
Connor.
answer.
Yeah, no, it's all right. Don't worry, we'll come back to you. Connor, I'm going to ask this question. It's actually from yourself, so thank you very much. He says, I know I'm on, but I want to know what we think about all these kits. So, Connor, talk to you about the kits, because you've got the home, away, and third kit. Any favourites in there? Go for it.
I was hoping you'd give me this question. So the home one, I love it. I think it's something a little bit different. The little bit of blue going down the sides. The away kit, not for me. I saw your tweet. You said it looks like pajamas, and I absolutely agree. It does look like pajamas. I actually quite like the third kit. Now, some people don't like the third kit, but it gives me Lucas Moura vibes, and I quite like that green kit. I think it's got quite a unique pattern. But yeah, please, can we just get rid of Nike next
The home
season?
kit, a lot of people were saying it reminds a lot of was the one we had at 06 or 07?
The Kappa one.
The Kappa, yeah.
Yeah.
Browns, the blue sleeve, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Fair enough. I think that. I tell you what, Billy, I'll come to you. What do you think about the kits? What do you, especially the away kit, on in particular, talk about?
I think the home kit is absolutely beautiful. I think it's our best home kit for a long time. I think we're quite boring with our home kits generally. It's good to see something a bit different. I think the away kit is horrific. It's horrendous. It's one of the worst kits I've ever seen us have. I just hate the color scheme. I hate the centralized badge. I think it looks awful. I don't know why they've done that. And I think it looks absolutely awful. It can only be saved by the fact that if we won a trophy or not or something, because otherwise, we're in the mud. But we had a really good away kit this year, the blue one, which we never really used that much. And we tended to go for the brown one, which I hated that one as well. So it's not looking good for the away kit for me.
No, it's not. Haz, what do you think of a away kit?
I don't like the away kit, but I'm kind of I don't know if you watched me and David's podcast on Spurs kits over the last 20 years, because we did a massive discussion over this. So
I saw clips of it
in the 90s and 2000s. They were trying to go for yellow away kits, we both didn't like yellow, so both didn't like most of them. But the ones that are like bluey, sort of dark bluey, I tend to like more. And also, I know you mentioned the brown kit, but the one kit I really liked back in the past was like the chocolate color kit back in like 07. I really like that away kit. I don't know why. It was just something a bit different. These away kits, I'm not a big fan of green and yellow, so it's not for me.
That was a Mido and Robbie Keane kit, wasn't it? I remember that.
Yeah,
that's a great kit as well.
I always associate that chocolate kit with when we won away at Fulham in the Cup 4.
Yeah, me too. Mido and Keane scored.
I was old enough to remember it.
Me too. Yeah, no, absolutely. Connor, I'll give the last question to you from Barney Big Up, who says, for you, if you had to choose Eze or Gibbs White, if you had to choose one.
Eze. I saw this this tweet actually, and I was thinking of different ways to answer it, but I think I might have forgot what I was going to say. So no, I definitely go with Eze. I think he's a level above Gibbs White personally, and also I know it's only something little, but after Gibbs White didn't get picked, it looked like he was throwing a hissy fit on his Instagram with that laughing emoji put on there. But obviously, I'm not going to say it was exactly to do with that, but it could well have been. But yeah, I think Eze's definitely my player here.
Yeah, a lot of people share that. I certainly do. I think that wraps us up though nicely for today's show. I don't think Justin will be coming back at a little bit of a technical fault, I think. But no, I don't know what happened there, but we'll have to see. But if you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. Strangely, subscribers have gone down since this show. So, if you are new, please do smash the subscribe button. Always someone, I do say it a lot on the, always open to things new, first for everything. Maybe not in this situation. So if you are new, in the comments, there's a lot of you, please do smash that subscribe button. It is free to do. So even if you don't watch a lot of the content. If you do, though, turn the notifications bell on to keep up to date with everything. If you're listening on a podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review. Wherever you get your podcast platforms are widely available now. Thank you very much for our guest. Justin, I don't think you come back. You can find it JJ Coda across all socials, regular on the show, be on a lot this month and next month. Billy, again, regular on the show. It's great to have so many regulars here. How you doing?
Yeah.
How you doing? That's what I say at the end. Where can people find you? Not started, don't worry. How you
Billie
doing?
T on Twitter, and I look forward to catching up with you guys over summer as well. Definitely be back on Thursday. So yeah, I look forward to that. And thank you for having me as always.
No worries. I don't think we'll ever get to bed if we start again. So thank you very much for coming on. Let's get this right. Haz, where can people find you?
Well, this channel, Spurs Kings TV, probably Tottenham Way, probably somewhere else as well. My own channel, Haz Spur TV. On my socials at Haz Spur 92. And yeah, I'm a regular on here as well. So you can find me there. I'm kind of everywhere, really. So yeah.
There you go. He's everywhere. Love it. Connor, obviously it has been a long time since you come in on. You're more than welcome back on anytime you would like. Where can people find you?
Literally just on Twitter. Not the biggest of accounts, and I don't tweet too much, but I don't know, maybe over the summer I'll try and pick it up a little bit more and tweet a little bit more. But yeah, Hotspur Things on Twitter.
As long as you talk more common sense than me, you'll be all right, I'm sure. You can definitely grow that account. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in, who's contributed, asked their questions, and said do smash the subscribe button. Follow all these guys on all socials. But for now, up the Spurs.
You were working as a manager at Celtic Park when we met you. We picked you out, you shook us up and turned us around. You've turned us into something new. Ange, Postecoglou, you know that we believe it when you say you're gonna change it. Ange, Postecoglou, we're the mighty Tottenham and nobody's gonna stop them. Oh, he looks so fine in blue and lily white. And then he said to me, I'm from a land down under. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh. Postecoglou, baby. Postecoglou, oh.